welcome. My name is Yuri. I'm an IELTS tutor. This is my website, IELTSexpert.ru, and here's a vk.com group. So I guess most of you have found out about the webinar from this group. Before we start, can I ask you to write in the chat which city and which country you are from, just to know the geography of the participants today. It would be very interesting for me to know. Okay, Irina, Moscow. Don, Moscow. Then Kazakhstan, Kostanay, Samara, St. Petersburg, Kyzyloda, Kazakhstan, Lipetsk, Kazakhstan, Moscow. Okay. St. Petersburg, I'm from St. Petersburg too. Kazakhstan, Aktau. Okay. Very nice. Yaroslavl, great. Rostov, I'm done. Murmansk, okay. Kazakhstan, Almaty. I guess it's quite late there already in Kazakhstan. Okay, Victoria, Kazakhstan. Right. Okay. And can I also ask you to write, if you're planning to take the IELTS, Neftejugansk, Russia. Okay, Regina, great. So if you're taking the IELTS, can you please write in the chat what's your target band score? How many points do you need? 6, 7, 6.5, 8, and so on. And are you taking general or academic? Option 7. Okay. 7.5 or 8, 7, 6.5, 7, academic 7, 8, 7, 7, 6.5, 7, 8, 7. So there are a lot of people who need 7. Okay. 7 minimum, 7, academic 7.5. Okay. Right, so most people need 7. And I will we'll have a look at grammar for band 7 then. So, hello, Vitaly. So academic 7. Right. So as you probably know, there is no part in IELTS that is called grammar. But if you look at the evaluation criteria for IELTS speaking and IELTS writing, you will see that grammatical range and accuracy, so for speaking there are 4 criteria: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. So grammatical range and accuracy, that's 25% of your speaking score. And if you look at writing, the situation is the same. There are 4 criteria. We're going to talk only about one, only about grammar today. So there's task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, and grammatical range and accuracy. Also, so it also this will influence 25% of your mark. So let's look at official evaluation criteria. Let me make this a bit bigger for you so you can see it. Okay, well, I guess that will. So we'll look at band 7. We're going to look at band 7. So grammar, range, and accuracy. What do you need? What kind of grammar do you need? It means, so in order to score 7 in IELTS, you need to use a range of complex structures with some flexibility. And you should frequently produce error-free sentences, though some grammatical mistakes persist. So it's possible to make some mistakes, but you need to use a variety of different grammar constructions. Well, if you look at band 6, that's you use a mix of simple and complex structures, but with limited flexibility. Or you can make frequent mistakes with complex structures. So if you speak with difficult sentences, but you make mistakes, you. Okay, so if you speak with complex sentences, but you make mistakes, you will get 6. And if you produce error-free, frequent error-free sentences, if you don't make any mistakes and you use complex structures, you will get 7. And here you will get 8 if you use a wide range of structures flexibly. What are these structures? So, okay, let's also look at writing. So, in writing, we also have this That's called grammar range and accuracy. And if you look at 7, what you need, you also need a variety of complex structures, produce error-free sentences, frequent error-free sentences, and good control of grammar and punctuation. So if you make mistakes in punctuation, it means your grammar score will suffer. If you make mistakes in spelling, then your vocabulary or lexical resource, as it's called, score will suffer. So what are these constructions? Of course, you can use different tenses, but then there are not too many of them, and this will not be enough. And you need to use some other constructions. They can be compound sentences or inversion. You can use comparatives, or you can use conditional sentences. And we'll have a look at some of those constructions today. So let's have a look at an example. I will need one volunteer. Can you please, to be a volunteer, who is going to speak? Now you need to have headphones because otherwise you will have echo. If you want volunteer, can you please put a plus in the chat? And I will turn on the microphone for you. So we'll do a simple speaking test, part 1 mostly. And I will show you how you can improve your grammar range by changing your answer. So are there any volunteers who would like to participate? If you want, please put a plus in the chat. So any volunteer who wants to be the first. So there are 38 people, and we need just one person. Okay, Anna, let me find you, and I will turn on the microphone for you. So I will ask you some simple part 1 questions, and try not to answer yes, no, or I like music, something like that. Just try to give expanded answers with about 3 sentences. And don't just say, do you like music? Yes, I like music, but try to expand your answers by saying, for example, or because, or something like this. Okay, so Anna, I tried to turn on the microphone. Please accept the invitation. Yes, can you say something? I think you should be heard now.
Yes, hi.
All right, hi.
Can you hear me?
I can. I believe others can also. If you can, please put a plus in the chat. I will ask you some questions, so try to give expanded answers to those. So, do you live in a house or a flat? Hello, can you hear me? So, Anna, can you answer the question? Do you live in a house or a flat?
Well, I live in a flat. Sorry, I live in a flat, and it has 2 rooms. We also have a balcony. So I would probably like to live in a house, but unfortunately, I live in a city. That's why it's a bit difficult to find a house here, and it's a bit expensive to buy one. So yes, I live in a flat.
All right. So if you continue like this, I mean, you're evaluated on 3 parts in the total, you would probably score 6.5. So that's your grammar is accurate. But if you try to use, I'll be copying some pieces in the chat. So if you try to use more complex grammar, like if you're asked, do you live? You can say, well, for the last 3 years, I've been living in a block of flats in an apartment building in a residential area and some part of a city. So you can use some specific vocabulary rather than saying house. You can say a detached house or a studio flat or residential area, but that's Lexis. And you can also use like present perfect continuous, or alternatively, you could use you could use, for instance, used to. Like, I used to live in a detached house in the suburbs of Moscow. However, my current accommodation is a studio flat in a residential area in St. Petersburg. And if you are not stopped here, then you can continue. Like, this area has got superb transport infrastructure and so on. So I've copied this in the chat. So those who are interested, you can copy this for yourself. Right, one more question. Do you work or are you a student?
Well, I'm studying now. Currently, I'm studying in a university at the linguistic department, and currently I'm the fourth year student right now, and I'm planning to take part in an international program to try studying abroad. That's why I'd like to pass IELTS. Well, some recent time, I'm not too sure where exactly yet, and I'm trying to prepare myself. For now, I'm just preparing by using different information. I'm searching for it on the internet. I also use some preparational books, like student books, and so on, etc. But of course, I'm planning to take a course or private tutor for me later. But for now, I'm just preparing myself, mostly psychologically, maybe than really when we hire a teacher or a tutor and have some private lessons.
All right, all right. At a real exam, you would probably be stopped earlier because this is just part one, and in part one, you should give short, not such lengthy answers.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good. That's good. So what I can say here, you could use some specific words. Like a fourth-year student, there is a special term in English. It's a senior student. Like a first-year student, that's freshman. Second-year sophomore. Third-year student, junior student, and fourth-year senior student. You could also use some more grammar, like studying at my university for 4 years already. Present perfect continuous is the same piece of advice. And one more thing, you're making quite simple sentences, but that's well, that's not the only problem with this. But you need to structure your answer. Whenever you introduce a new idea, don't just say "and" or "start a new sentence." You can use a wide variety of they're called linking devices. For example, you can say "in addition," "what's more." Each time you start a new idea, you can add it and say "what's more," "on top of that," "furthermore," and so on. And then you can say, to sum up, finally, just so your speaking should have some structure. And then there is one criterion that is called fluency and coherence. So if your answer is coherent, it means it has some logical structure. You will get higher point in that too. So your answer, well, just by itself, would probably be 6 or 6.5. But if you want higher, you can add structure, you can add some complicated grammar, or more complicated. We're going to talk about it later during the webinar, and things like that. Okay, so one more. What do you like about your studies?
Well, I like most of my subjects. Some of them are a bit more difficult for me. Others are really easy. But the most important thing that I like about my studying is that I always can find something new for myself that I'm developing as a person, as a professional. And I like studying very much. I really enjoy spending time with my friends in the university. And I also enjoy spending time on lectures because I can communicate with my teachers and again learn some new material, learn some new information and facts, even not only connecting with the language, not only concerning the professional materials, but also some important information that will be useful for my life as well.
Okay, brilliant. If you have noticed, Anna has got, speaks very fluently, so she doesn't stop to hesitate, and this is very nice. Don't forget, when you introduce a new idea, you start saying "and this," "and that." Instead of this, there are special linking devices, furthermore. You could make your comparative sentences a bit more complicated by saying "slightly" instead of "a bit," Or instead of saying much more difficult, you can say considerably or significantly. So this will increase your grammar range, and you will just use a bit more or slightly more complex constructions. And more question for you: what do you dislike about your studies?
Could you repeat, sorry?
Sure. What do you dislike about your studies?
Well, the most important thing that I don't like is that I have to wake up early and go to university sometimes at 7 o'clock, and it's a bit early. Well, it's slightly early for me, and if I would be asked about when to wake up to go to university, I would probably choose some time like 10 a.m. or something like that. So I would have some time to wake up, to have some tea, to maybe even to relax a bit, to enjoy the morning and so on and etc. So this is the most.
Right, thank you. So it's very nice that you use conditional sentences here. They are for band 6 or above. Unfortunately, you made a small mistake. After
Yes,
if,
I
there should be
recognize.
past simple. Yeah, so if I were asked, this is classical English and this will be wonderful for an exam. In real life, you can say if I was asked. You can say so in an exam as well. It won't be a mistake. So if I were asked, blah, 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 I would. So you can also just answer this question, this type of question is quite common. What do you dislike about? By using a conditional. For instance, I'm a teacher, and if you ask me, what do you dislike about your job? I would say, if I were privileged to only have motivated students, well, I actually do because my students are IELTS students, they're motivated, who always do their homework. That would probably be the most perfect job in this entire world. So instead of saying, I don't like this and that, you can say, if I had this, that would be better. And you use just a more complex grammar structure. You can also say, I wish I had more free time, and so on. Okay, and one more thing, just before this, I forgot to mention, instead of saying, like, I like, well, for example, music, you can say, what I like best. This is called cleft sentence. You can say something like, what I like best is music. Here's an example. His perseverance inspires me most. Instead of this, you can say, what inspires me most is his perseverance. And this is an example of a more complex structure. Okay, thank you, Anna. I will turn off the microphone for you. Thank you for participation, and then we'll move on.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's talk. We'll need 2 volunteers today, a bit later, so please be ready when I ask to put a plus. So let's talk a little bit about conditional sentences. So this is the type of that is good enough for band 6. And well, if you know it, then it's great. If not, let's familiarize ourselves with this a bit. There are 3 types of conditional sentences. One of them, the first one, means real condition in the future. What does it mean, real condition in the future? It means there is theoretical possibility that this will happen. Well, for instance, if the weather is fine tomorrow, I will go for a walk. Theoretically, it's possible. So that's why it's called real condition in the future. And after if, you shouldn't use will. You should use present simple instead. And so you say, if the weather is fine, I will go for a walk. This is a construction you can use in your answers, in speaking answers especially. And there's one more thing. You can, instead of if, you can say unless, in all 3 types actually. So unless the weather is bad, I will go for a walk. Unless means if not. The second type of conditional sentences, that's hypothetical situation. That's unreal condition in the present. And then use would. For instance, if I had $1 million, I would buy a big house. So can you please write in the chat a full sentence? What would you do if you had $1 million? Please start your sentence with if I had $1 million, and then I would, and tell me what you would do. So here, after if, you use past simple. But in classical English, instead of was, you use were for all, well, numbers, both for singular and for plural. It's not a mistake to say was, but if you write were, or if you say were in your speaking part, you will slightly impress the examiner. So if I had $1 million, Vitaly, I would buy a penthouse. Okay, nice. Any other variants? If I had $1 million, I would travel around the world. Okay, Arina, brilliant. Don, if I had $1 million, I'd go to live in the USA. If I had $1 million, I would buy an apartment in Paris. Okay, Valeria. But I think you already live in Paris, so you just need to buy an apartment. If I had $1 million, I would start my own business. Okay, right, Tatiana. If I had $1 million, I would set up a business and travel around the world. Okay, great. Dina, if I had $1 million, I would become a superstar. Okay. If I had $1 million, I would travel with my family around the world. Okay. If I had $1 million, comma, I would spend them. So I would spend it. It's just $1 million on charity projects. Spend money on something, not for. If I had $1 million, I would organize a donation company in Ukraine. Okay. So next one, if I had $1 million, I would be a millionaire. The millionaire is spelled in a different way. So, Evgeny, if I had $1 million, I would buy 9-inch band. Okay, right. So, Regina, if I had $1 million, I would spend 1/3 on charity. If I had $1 million, I would help disabled children. If I had $1 million, I would start my own business and make more money to give or to help for charity work, travel around the world. Okay, several ideas. If I had $1 million, I would definitely buy some Maldives islands. All right, $1 billion. Elchin, I would set up a business and invest in my education. That would be a pretty expensive education, huh? All right, thank you. And the third conditional, which is considered to be the most complex, it's unreal condition in the past. So after if, you use past perfect, and then you say would have in the third form. For example, if I had $1 million now, it's unreal condition. I don't have it, so it's unreal. And if I had enough money at that time, so it's unreal condition in the past. I would have solved many problems also in the past. And this is a very good construction. You can use it almost in any part 2 card, cue card. For instance, if you're talking about your best friend, you can say, if I hadn't met in the past. If I hadn't met my best friend, you can either say, my life would be absolutely different now. So it's a mixed type between third and second. Or you can say, if I hadn't met, or unless I had met my best friend, I wouldn't have had so many wonderful moments in my life. Like this. Whichever topic you're speaking about, there is always an opportunity to use this. And in our online course, I always give examples of such constructions for each of the cue cards. Okay, so you can use this quite naturally. Now let's practice a bit. We need 2 volunteers, one after another. And so, okay, Arina, you'll be the first. You want to become the president, and you want to take part in the election, and you're going to make 5 promises. So the topics for the promises will be education, work, accommodation, tax, or anything. You really want to become the president, and it will be first conditional. You start your sentences like this, or in any other way. If I win the election, I will do this. If you vote for me, I will. If you choose me, if I become the president, and so on. So I'm going to turn on the microphone for you. Just let me find you, because there are almost 40 people. Oh, okay. So I will turn the microphone for you. We also need the second volunteer. So if you want, you can also. Okay, Akma, you'll be the second. So I'm trying to turn on the microphone for you. Please accept the invitation. And when you're ready, imagine you want to become the president of your country, and you're going to make some promises.
Can you hear me?
Yes, well, kind of. So please make your promises.
Okay then. Um, can you put the like taxes, education? Yeah, thanks. Um, as a future president of the of our country of Russian Federation, I can promise to the country that if I win the election, I will provide free education for everyone. If you vote for me, I will reduce the pension age. Can I say the pension age?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I will reduce the pension age for women up to 50 and for men up to 58, for example. Well, if I win the election, I will provide the work for all people around the country who want to work and and I will find a place for everyone. And if you vote for me, I will provide accommodation for veterans and for disabled people. And I don't know, if I win the election, taxes will be lower.
Okay, so you will cut taxes by how many percent?
30%. 30%.
Okay, thank you. Right, so that was Arina, these were her promises. And now Akma. After this, we're going to have the election. We'll have to vote, so who you will choose, Akma or Arina. So Arina, I'm turning on the microphone for you. Hello?
Let me ask again, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna start. I can help but tell you that winning the election will be the greatest choice which you can make. I'm likely to eradicate all the corruption in our country as well as any other educational problems such as lack of schools and lack of kindergartens. I'm going to be a good president. However, I need your choosing me for this now. I need your support as unique nation. There is a good chance of my winning. Moreover, I'm likely to win. So that's all.
Okay. Yes. So do you have anything else to say?
May I add just one thing? If I become the president, I firmly convinced that I will be the best one.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
That's all.
So, right. Thanks. Now let's have the election. I'm trying to create a poll for. Oh, I couldn't. I'll try once again. Just 1 second. Okay, so please vote in the chat who you want to vote for, Arina or Akma. You have two options. And we'll see. After this, we'll move on. Okay, Arina, Akma, Arina. Arina too. Akma. And Akma. Again, Akma. Arina. Both answers were splendid. Right. So yes, it seems to be we'll need the second tour in the next webinar. So the answers are equal in number. Let me tell you about some other useful constructions that can help. Hello, Nur Sultan. Welcome. Let me tell you about some other constructions that are possible to increase your score. One of them is inversion. Inversion is used when you want to emphasize one part of a sentence, and you after this you use unusual word order. For instance, he didn't realize he had been tricked until the following day. Or you can say, Sandugash, we don't connect a microphone during the webinar. Only when I invite some participants. And some people who want to volunteer, they can take part by speaking. Otherwise, we're just listening and to the webinar and so on. So he didn't realize he had been tricked until the following day. And not until the following day did he realize he had been tricked. So if you put not until the following day, then you use the word order like in a question. Did he realize? And if you speak like that, if you use such constructions, both in your writing, in both tasks, especially in general IELTS writing, and in speaking, you can also increase your score. There are some other expressions that can be used. Well, here's one more example. He is clever and good looking. This is quite a simple sentence, but you can put not only in the beginning, and then it will be like this. Not only is he clever, but he's also good looking. And here, is he, it's inverted word order. It means that you first put the verb, and then you put the subject, who, he. Well, it's he here in this context. It's very, very convenient because very often you have to connect two ideas, both in writing and in speaking. And you can do so by using inversion. It can be used in different tenses. So, all right. So here are some examples of words that you often use with inversion, or with which you can use inversion. It's not only. Not only is he clever, but he's also good looking. Or never. Never have I seen him so angry. You can say, I have never seen him so angry. But if you put never in the beginning, then it's inversion and it's just more advanced grammar. Or under no circumstances should we stop preparing for IELTS. Or instead of if I had known this before, had I known this before, you can say it like this. Instead of if you need any help, you can say, should you need any help, do not hesitate to contact me. So, can I ask you to write a sentence in the chat, if you can? Не успели мы открыть окно, как птичка залетела. If somebody can, please try to write it in the chat. So these are the expressions after which you use inversion, like never have I done it. Not only is it interesting, but it's also useful. Under no circumstances. Had I known this before? Should you need any help? It's also possible to say hardly. Had we opened the window, a bird flew in. If you say had we opened the window, it means if we had opened the window, the bird would have flown in. Had we opened, it means if we had opened. But you need to say newspaper. I often load every 3 minutes, only if I have a problem with communication. You face camera anytime, stop. I don't understand the last sentence. but I hope other people can hear me. Okay. So, any variants? Any other variants? So here's the answer. There are two possible variants. No sooner had we opened the window than the bird flew in, or hardly had we opened the window when the bird flew in. Yes, hardly, but it should be past perfect. Because first we had opened the window and then the bird flew in. We had opened the window before the bird flew in. And the bird flew in, and before that we had opened. So hardly had we opened the window, or no sooner had we opened the window than the bird flew in, or the birdie. Okay, several more. So if you can hear me, can you please put a plus in the chat? Okay, so then let's continue. There is an expression, а я и не знал что. So in English you say, little did I know that. For instance, he was a doctor. When you're telling a story in part 2, that's very useful. That's a very useful expression. Or, my best friend, unfortunately, he relocated overseas a few years ago. And seldom do we have a chance to talk nowadays. However, when we do reunite, I feel as if we've never I feel that we haven't grown apart. And I realize that we haven't lost the bond. So these are possible. Seldom do we have a chance to talk nowadays. Or only when my children sleep do I have. Only when blah blah blah, and then inversion. Do I have a chance to prepare for IELTS? If you use such constructions in your writing and speaking, this will be really beneficial for your IELTS score. If there are any questions on conditional sentences and inversion, please write it in the chat. I'm going to give you some more examples in a minute. So, while you're typing, maybe some questions, I will answer them. Some other tricky constructions that can be used to increase your grammar range and accuracy score are these. It's perfective infinitive after modal verbs. It must have been 5 years since I started working as a teacher, as a photographer, whatever. Then instead of saying something in the past, you can say used to. So I used to have a bike. It's much better than saying I had a bike. Basically you can use this in the beginning of part 2 of almost any part 2. So tell me about an event that, or describe an event that, describe a person who, describe a situation when, and so on. So the situation I can't help telling you about is this. I can't help telling you, не могу не рассказать. We can use inversion only with specific phrases. Yes, Anna, that's right. There is quite a limited number of phrases after which you use inversion. I have listed the most convenient phrases for the IELTS exam. The ones that I have listed are really convenient and they are more or less general, so you can reuse them from topic to topic. Okay, as well as these constructions. So must have been, or you should, I shouldn't have done it if you're talking, or I should have done it if you're talking about a situation in the past. So modal verbs with perfective infinitive, that's also quite advanced grammar. Then something I can't help telling you about. Emphatic sentences. Instead of saying my friend helped me, you can say it was my friend who helped me. This is called emphatic sentence or emphatic construction. Okay. Instead of my father gave me a mobile phone for my birthday, or it was my father who gave me. There are also cleft sentences that I mentioned today. I like his sense of humor. Instead of this, you can say, what I like best about him is his sense of humor. Worth plus gerund. It's also a very nice construction. This book is worth reading. This place is worth visiting. This person is worth meeting. Whatever you're telling about, you can use this. This something is worth doing. What book or source could I use to train inversion construction? I'm afraid I cannot answer this because inversion, that's just a topic that is studied in grammar, but since it's very specific, Well, probably one book that I can name is, well, there is Grammar for IELTS. It's a book, a special book where you can take it from. It's just, this is the name of it, Grammar for IELTS. And then there is also Collins Grammar. There's Collins for IELTS, series. So there's vocabulary. There's a book on vocabulary, a book on listening, reading, writing, speaking, and a book on grammar. But there is only one lesson on this. You can also watch, there are a couple of videos on YouTube that are very useful. If you, just on YouTube, if you type IELTS inversion, then there are some nice videos. They will give you some more information about this, but the expressions will be pretty much the same that I'm mentioning. Okay, so you can also say worth plus gerund, like this person is worth meeting. This is a nice construction too. Instead of after doing something, you can say on doing something. Your style will be higher. On returning home, I did this and that, if you do some narration. You can also use comparative sentences. I've already mentioned slightly plus comparative, or significantly or considerably bigger, considerably plus comparative. Instead of this, you can also say nowhere near as. For example, this book is nowhere near as interesting as that one. So this is quite an advanced piece of grammar. And then complex object, complex subject. If you know what it is, do use it. This will increase your score. These are sentences like, I saw him crossing the street. I heard him, well, drop the vase or whatever. I want it to happen. So this complex object, complex subject. Perfect or perfect continuous tenses, like past perfect continuous. For example, I got my, there is a topic, your first mobile phone. Yes, I got my first mobile phone, it was blah, blah, blah. This was a present I had been dreaming about for a long time. Present passive tenses, or perfect passive tenses. When you're just beginning your part 2 answer, you can say, I've been asked to tell about, and this is present perfect passive. This is a good way to use it. You have cue card in part 2, start your sentence with this, and you will already use present perfect passive. Okay, so I don't see anything to hear it because the monitor all the time stops every 3 or 4 minutes. Sorry to trouble you. Okay, maybe you are, let me have a look. Maybe you're using a mobile device, then probably, no, you're using a computer. Well, unfortunately, there is nothing I can do. I hope that everyone else can see the presentation normally. So when you enumerate something, you can also say be it. I don't like staying at home, be it in front of a TV set or computer screen. And probably the last thing, no, not the last, there are 3 more. You can use rhetorical questions, both in writing and in speaking, and tag questions. So that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Something like this. One more construction that could be, well, really nice for your score, but it's mostly for writing. This is when it's called fronting. And this is when you put one word in the beginning of a sentence. And you can put a word and say something like, undeniable is the fact that. So this is a good way to start an introduction or one of your first main body paragraphs. Instead of undeniable, you can use something else. Then, it was not until I started doing something that I realized. It was not until past simple that I past simple, something like this. Okay, so these are the constructions. Let me show you. Have a quick look at them again. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to tell you. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. While you're thinking of questions, I wanted to tell you that twice a week, I run an online language course. If you are aiming at Band 7, for instance, you can join it. That's Saturday and Sunday, 7 p.m. Moscow time. So we meet twice a week. That's 90 minutes. The price for the course is 5,600 rubles per month. That's 350 rubles per academic hour. The maximum number of people in the group is 8. Well, sometimes it's fewer than that. On Saturday we do writing. On Sunday we do speaking. So if you want to train just one of the aspects, you can train that. In writing, we do all writing type tasks, so all types of essays, all types of Part 1 tasks. As for speaking, we practice the questions that are currently being used in the IELTS exam. How do I know these questions? Well, as you know, there are millions of people who take IELTS every year, a couple of millions, and they report which questions they had. So these questions are the same for one season. One season is 4 months, and they change in January, in April, and in September, 3 times a year. So from September to December, this is the same set of questions. There are 53 cue cards, about 35, 36 Part 1 cards, and 53 Part 3 cards. I know all of them. I know exact questions, and I teach my students to practice these tests. I will share a link with you with the topics, not the questions themselves, but the topics. And you can download them, or you can just have a look at them at my website. As for the questions, we practice them in our course. And it's much more productive to prepare exactly the questions that you will have in the exam, rather than just abstract questions. So here you can see the topics. For example, if somebody had an IELTS recently, I mean September, October, or early November, you can tell me which cue card you had, and you will see that it is on the list. Okay, so right. If you are aiming at band 6 or 7, and if your level is at least intermediate, you can also try first week. It's free, so you can try and see for yourself if this group is suitable for you or not. So if you're interested, you can write to this IELTS webinar. One of my mates is planning to take IELTS in March. Are you going to run this course later? Yes, I'm going to run this course throughout the year. Basically, all topics are repeated every 3 months, let's say. So you can join at any time, if your level is intermediate or higher. Right. And so this is the if you want to join the course, you can write to me at this email address. I will copy this. Then also may I ask you if you like this webinar, and if you want some more webinars like this to happen, to leave a review. Yes, sorry for disappearing. There was some problem with connection. So if you like the webinar, please leave a review at this link. Thank you, Elchin. Probably our next webinar will be next Tuesday, same time, but I will inform you. The information will be put in the group.